Hello, tonight our lesson is on the absolute value of a number. Let's start by writing the following definition. The absolute value of a number is its distance from zero on a number line. So please get that into your notes. So here we have a picture of a number line. So go ahead and draw a number line on your paper, and let's put 0 in the middle. All the positive numbers would be, of course, to the right of 0, and all the negative numbers would be to the left. All right, so let's start by considering two numbers. Let's consider 5. So here's the number 5. And let's consider the number -5. Right there. Okay, now, if I compare the absolute values of 5 and -5, what could I say about them? Well, if you said they're equal, then you're correct, because the distance of a number from 0 is the definition of absolute value, and the number 5 is 5 units away from 0, and the number -5 is also 5 units away from 0. So in terms of their absolute value, of their distance from the number 0, they're equal. Now, in terms of their normal value, or just a regular value, 5 is a greater number than -5. It's better to have $5 than to have -$5 or to owe $5. It's warmer to be in a temperature of 5 degrees Celsius than it is to have a temperature of -5 degrees Celsius. So in terms of just comparison of regular values, the number 5 would be greater than the number -5. And if I wrote a comparison like this, then I would use the less than symbol because we read left to right in English. So -5 would be less in value than +5. However, in terms of absolute value of their distance from 0, they're equal. So this is how we write absolute value. We use two vertical symbols. Those two vertical symbols together mean absolute value. And then we put the number inside that we want to find the absolute value of. All right, so here on the left, this is read absolute value of -5. On the right, this is read absolute value of 5. And as we already said, they are equal to each other. All right, so value of a number is by virtue of its position on the number line. The further to the right you are, the higher in value you have. Absolute value is just a distance of the number from 0. So it's possible to have numbers that are equal in absolute value even though they don't have the same value. All right, here we have two numbers that we're going to compare using greater than or less than. Let's start by comparing their regular values. So if I'm comparing -3 and 2, which number is greater in value? Is it -3 or is it 2? Well, if you said 2, you're correct. So the sign that we would use would be the less than symbol to show that 2 has a greater value than -3. However, if we're comparing absolute values, if I take the absolute value of -3 and the absolute value of 2, which symbol now should I put between them? That's right, I would put greater than, because -3 is a greater distance from 0 than +2 is. The absolute value of -3 is equal to 3. The absolute value of 2 is equal to 2. All right, so how you do on that? Does that make sense? All right, you try this one. I want you to compare the two numbers using greater than or less than. Compare regular values, then compare absolute values. All right, so we have 1 and 4. If I'm comparing values, 1 is less than 4, so I would use the less than symbol. If I'm comparing absolute values, the absolute value of 1 and the absolute value of 4, which symbol goes between them? Well, if you said less than, you're correct, because the absolute value of 1 is still 1, and the absolute value of 4 is 4, and 4 is a greater distance from 0 than 1 is. All right, so now compare these two numbers the way we've been comparing. Do their regular values, and then do their absolute values. All right, so we have -2 and 0. All right, so -2 and 0, you're going to use a greater than or less than. What did you end up using? Yes, less than. -2 is less than 0. It's smaller in value than the number 0 is. Now let's compare absolute values. Absolute value of -2 and the absolute value of 0. So what would you put for this? Well, if you put greater than, you're correct. Absolute value of -2 is a distance of 2 from 0, whereas 0 is right on itself, so it's a 0 distance away. So the absolute value of -2 is 2, the absolute value of 0 is 0, and 2 is greater than 0. Okay? All right, now let's compare, and we're not using a number line. We're just comparing the numbers straight up. So for number 1, we're comparing 4 and -8. All right, which symbol goes between? Greater than or less than? It's greater than. 4 is greater than -8, because on the number line, 4 would be further to the right. All right, now we're comparing the absolute value of -5 and the absolute value of 4. So which symbol goes between? No, it's not less than. It's greater than again, because the absolute value of 5 equals 5, the absolute value of 4 is 4, and so 5 is a greater number than 4. How about comparing the value of 0 and -7? What would I put between them? Greater than or less than? No, not less than. That's right, it's greater than. 0 is greater than in value than -7. Okay, if we're just comparing regular value. And I threw a little bit of a curveball in for number 4. So what do you think? I'm comparing 12 and the absolute value of -12. What symbol should go between them? No, it's not greater than. No, it's not less than either. So I kind of cheated a little bit. These are actually equal. Okay, the absolute value of 12 is, the absolute value of -12 over here is equal to 12. And so these are equal in value to one another. If you plotted those 2 points on the number line, they're both the same distance away from 0, and they both would have the same absolute value. So those two values are equal to each other. And that's all for tonight. So remember, read some books.